Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
We're excited to invite you to Room's Christmas Open House, November 6th through the 8th. Visit our in-store gift shop featuring Peter's Pottery. Enjoy refreshments, door prizes, discounts, and so much more. We can't wait to see you.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, welcome in to Mississippi Live Weather at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor, who we'll talk to here in a few minutes as we are looking at a potential for some strong to severe thunderstorms later on this week, in particular for Friday. We've talked about the last couple days. It's the reason why some of those football games have had to forward to Thursday. In fact, a lot of them have done that over the last couple of days. We will start with that severe weather risk. As you can see, greatest in the northeast tip of the state, a level 2 out of 5 severe weather threat. In particular, at this juncture, it looks like hail would be the main impact there. It does involve, at least in some form or fashion, most locations. As I step to this side here again, this graphic is always about the number of reports, always more impactful when it ends up being over top of you. And we will break this down in much more detail here in a minute. But we did want to start with that headline as you are planning ahead. We are warm and dry through Thursday. That's one of the things that, of course, kind of sets the stage for a much better opportunity to play some of those Friday night football games, which will get cooler in the evening. So that's why we're doing those on Thursday, including our Mississippi Live game of the week between Oxford and Starkville. Friday storms could produce some hail from time to time. There will be some rotating thunderstorms that mix in with this batch, and that's obviously a concern. But we will walk threat by threat through our confidence level related to this coming up here in a couple of minutes as well. But as we look at the first 12, no issues this evening. Still 65 at 6 p.m. We're 54 by 9 p.m., 51 by around midnight, and looking like those temperatures heading back into the upper 40s by early tomorrow morning, even though we have a front shift through the area. Look at this difference in wind direction there from southwest at 6 to west to north to northwest. No real temperature contrast with that. So while we'll call it a cold front, it's more of a wind shift. And it's one thing that kind of tries to keep the moisture slightly farther south, providing hopefully a limiting factor as far as our active weather is concerned. But as you can see here, kind of looking around the area, just clear air returns on Mississippi Live Weather Radar on our close-in scan here. We do expect, obviously, this to light up with a lot more activity by Friday. But our projections, this is not a high-end event because not all the components are in place. I mentioned this initial front here working to kind of squish moisture down there closer to the Gulf of Mexico. There is a weak disturbance down there as well. You can see some of the clouds associated with that, but you don't see any precipitation until you go all the way up there closer to Columbus, Ohio. And then back to the north and west, we've got to go a lot farther. We got to go back again to the west coast essentially here. This big storm system is the one that we are watching to make some impact for us. We kind of bring this back to more 2D look at this. This is what we call a mid-latitude cyclone, a pretty strong one. And so a piece of that kind of breaks off and sort of heads our direction. And that will be what brings us our more disturbed weather. So I'm going to use the blue color here. I think this will select that there to show again, we expect the jet stream pattern is going to be kind of out of the northwest like this. And so that will provide some of the organization for these thunderstorms, but it's not a perfect setup for severe weather, thankfully. And so while, again, some of the active weather with this will head our direction, this is unlikely at this point here to be a high-end severe weather event on a sort of widespread scale, because this is going to be our lifting mechanism. And honestly, it's more the lift with the a jet streak coming toward us that's a bigger issue. But this front, what this has behind it there is it has some drier air back here. And so that drier air is going to just shove our moisture slightly farther south, and that could limit how much returns. And that will be our limiting factor. I think we'll have those strong winds aloft, but how much dry air is there, and how can the atmosphere overcome that? That remains the biggest question as to the quantity of strong to severe thunderstorms we see as we go toward your Friday. So that frontal boundary moving through, really a cold front in name only. It's not much cooler behind this. And so you'll notice really no cloud cover and no precipitation with this initial boundary. We're looking at 10 p.m. this evening. That's kind of slipping through, but it looks like we're in pretty good shape as far as that is concerned. Now, a few clouds out there, again, maybe some low clouds for early tomorrow morning in some spots, but you don't see, I'm looking here, I don't see a single speck of precipitation all across the region, a sign that this is intercepting dry air. But after this moves out, after this moves back toward the east, that's when we'll start seeing more southerly flow. And as that starts to happen, that's when that moisture returns. But you can see by early Thursday morning, we're still cut off from that. So there's really kind of a short duration time period for that moisture to come back and then allow those storms to form. So we are still dry for tomorrow. And notice those northerly winds initially there in the morning because of that front at 6 a.m. We're 48 degrees. We're 60 by 9 a.m. We're 73 by noontime. But then notice that shift in wind direction, right? From the east back to the southeast, back to the south. And that'll start bringing a little bit of that moisture. So again, this is not a major front moving in tonight. And honestly, no real temperature contrast there associated with that as we're low 70s really to maybe some mid 70s out there for highs on your Thursday. And honestly, looking pretty good for those Friday night football games. Of course, I keep saying Friday night football. It's not. It's Thursday night football games. The Friday night football games have some issues. And that's what we're going to be looking at here in the Room to Room Weather Center here in a couple of moments as we break down the latest look at our futurecast. Only sort of picking up on these storms. And that's one of the good things with this. Moisture remains somewhat limited. Where are we most likely to see those impacts? What's our confidence level related to that? We'll have that coming up here in 60 seconds from the Room to Room Weather Center as Mississippi Live Weather at 5 continues right after this.
This roof's getting installed with our premium roofing system. Backed by our 50-year warranty. And there's a 0% financing, no payment for 6 months options that this customer utilized. If you're looking for a new roof and you need an affordable option, call Absolute Restoration.
I know you're going through a lot. I wonder if you know that we can get help. Let's see how far we can go. Love, your mind.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Talking about severe weather coming up in the near future, but for right now, we are still enjoying those beautiful conditions across North Mississippi. This, a great look out there in Batesville. You see the clear skies on the horizon, still with those oranges and yellows showing up as well. So sun is setting and these temperatures will start dropping. Currently 68 degrees, but dew point 52, that moisture coming back into the forecast, but as Matt was talking about, that will start to shift into those coming days. Tupelo, I mean, this is a picture perfect sunset, one that just will be one to remember for sure. 68 degrees as well, but those temperatures will be in for another cool night getting into our Wednesday night and our Thursday morning. Starkville Road's a little bit more busy as students heading out from campus to enjoy any of those activities this Wednesday evening, so it is going to be a dry forecast for those students, and honestly, you might need to get those hot beverages rather than those milkshakes from Cookout because it is going to be a much colder forecast overnight. So as of right now, radar is calm. That continues to be the case as we get into our overnight hours and into our Thursday morning. But Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon walking us through that severe weather threat. Matt, what's the latest on what you're tracking?
Okay, so certainly nothing out there at this point in time as dry weather is still kind of the major headline here. And as we talked about off the top of the broadcast, our severe weather risk greatest to the north. This does extend actually more north of the area. So I want to go on a wider shot here to kind of show you that for a second here. The center part of this is actually closer to Nashville. Here's the reason this is laid out like this. We have an overlapping elements, what's the word I'm looking for? Ingredients here. Only for kind of a small area. There's a lot more fuel from Tupelo southward toward Meridian and Hattiesburg for thunderstorms to try to form, but we don't have as much lift to kind of get them going, so it's kind of like gasoline without a match. Up northward, we have stronger winds aloft to kind of help get storms to rotate, but we don't have quite as much fuel there. And so kind of the zone where there's the greatest overlap is in this yellow zone here, and that's part of the reason why we have Alcorn, Prentiss, Tishomingo County in that. if for one reason or another it looks like there's significantly more fuel, this could potentially be pulled a little bit farther south and east. But this graphic always shows you the number of reports, the idea being not that there'll be 2 reports, but the greatest number of reports will be in that center area in the overlap. I think we could still have some wind gusts, maybe some hailstones south of that. We're looking at how Futurecast is breaking that down here in a minute. Your church forecast for this evening, no issues out there. We're 65 at 6 p.m., 56 by 8, and 53 by 10. Should mention a second here that our severe weather risk in particular is for Friday. I don't know if I emphasized that well enough. Tonight, tomorrow, wherever you're going, I think we're in good shape as far as that is concerned. Here is our initial look at Futurecast. And for tonight, it's going to be kind of boring here. Not much out there as we continue to have, again, southerly sort of winds as we are dry and clear. We have a weak frontal boundary moving into the area from the north and west. No precipitation associated with that. So again, dry, mostly clear. Do have a few patches of cloud cover out there forming, maybe even a little bit of fog on what light winds that we do have. Our meteorologist Maggie McCall will be tracking any issues related to that starting at 6:30 tomorrow morning on Mississippi Live Weather. Of course, every day during the week we're live 6:30, 7, 7:30 a.m. and of course 5, 6, and 10 p.m. Just want to give you that list there and available Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube, and then here in the Mississippi Live Weather app for Roku and your regular television sets. So we're looking at 47 there in Houston for that low temperature, as well as Water Valley. We're coming to about 50 Belzona. Moisture moving more readily into the area out here in the Delta. That helps hold temperatures slightly higher. And this is a little warmer for all locations than we were today, and certainly than we were with the frostier start earlier this week. Our IMPC school bus forecast has us 50 at pickup tomorrow morning and 73 by drop-off. No precipitation, no storm issues at all. We are dry, we are clear, we are in great shape. So let's walk through the day hour by hour here on Futurecast. You can see early in the morning, there's that cloud cover kind of building in, a sign of moisture trying to return. But we also have that front providing the weakest little bit of drier air here kind of working against that. So two things working opposite one another. I think the front wind's just enough to push the moisture slightly farther south. That little difference there from this weak front could be what saves us from more significant storms. Hopefully that limits the storm potential as we go into your Friday evening. But as you can see, Thursday, we are dry. We're 1:30. We're looking for 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, picking kids up from school. No issues out there. Dry and clear all across the region as we continue to have, again, those light southerly winds around, but they start bringing in eventually a little bit more moisture. That just-in-time moisture may be just enough to produce a couple strong thunderstorms eventually by Friday. And we've said that enough. But Thursday, we're good. We are dry. We're 75 degrees in Cleveland, 77 there in Greenwood, as well as Grenada. We're 76 in Bruce and Eupora, 77 degrees in Columbus, and Aliceville, and about 76 in Macon. Our normal 68, so way above that. And that does mean that while, yes, it is cool by the final snap of some of our high school game of the week locations, your Thursday night football, I mean, mid-50s, still clearly jacket weather, but not as cold as it would have been earlier this week. So we've improved things a lot. And again, appreciate the Casey lot and Langston lot for sponsoring us here on our high school game of the week. We're going to be there in Oxford for Starkville and Oxford tomorrow night. Look forward to seeing everyone out there. And vote, of course, voting continues for the Spirit Squad and Band of the Week. And appreciate all the folks for doing that. Again, a day early because we're trying to hit the dry weather ahead of this main system. Let's go wide here for a second. And on that wider shot, what you will notice here is we have two things. This kind of brown line indicating an area of lift, which is going to be what tries to bring us some rain chances for your Friday. And then a front behind it here that's going to sweep all the moisture out. So this is not a situation where we stay humid and primed for storms long. It's kind of one and done with this chance on this weak trough, this weak area of lift moving in. Well, you'll notice Friday morning as well here, the little bits of green that we show up with, this is that moisture trying to return from the Gulf of Mexico. So on Futurecast here in a moment, you're going to see an underwhelming amount of storm activity. That is what we should expect with what we call just-in-time moisture, where it either happens just in time or maybe if we're lucky, it doesn't happen at all. As you'll notice, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, these are light. These are not severe. These are not strong. This is that moisture returning with maybe a couple of showers here at noontime on your Friday. But again, more often than not, we're not going to have much. Now notice what we have going on here as we head toward around 3 p.m. or so. And I'm going to widen things out just a little bit. What we show is, again, this activity Birmingham down toward Meridian and Hattiesburg, and then more activity up toward Jackson, Tennessee, Nashville, back out toward locations near Bowling Green. That is kind of the split that's going on here. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a second as we're talking model trends here for a moment. You'll notice that's, I think, a little bit quicker than what some of the lower resolution models were showing. Do we buy the strike model and its kind of earlier initiation?
I think the strike model is still on the aggressive side, but that's, Barron does, or strike model does that from time to time. But I think it is verifying at least some of those rain chances taking place, at least for that mid-afternoon time frame. Not an impossibility, but a lot of the activity that it has developing, primarily Tuscaloosa County down there towards Meridian, some of that could be backtracked just a bit as we get more of those high-resolution models out. And that's one of the things that we were talking behind the scenes. We'll get more updates as we head further into our Wednesday and then really into our Thursday that could answer a few of those questions in regards to that positioning and that timing. And makes sense for Friday Night Football, right? We need that timing.
We do. And so as we progress into your Friday evening, you'll notice we don't have a ton showing up at 6 p.m. We have, again, where there's more moisture down here, those storms a little heavier. Where we have the strong winds loft up here, storms a little heavier. And we're kind of in that maybe zone on how this plays out. I do think that what we have up here from Jackson, Tennessee toward Columbia, I think that is underdone on projections simply because I think it's saying, hey, moisture starved. We're not going to have as much in the way of storm activity. But even coming up tonight at 10 o'clock on Mississippi Live Weather, Gabe's going to have a much better look at this. And I think we might have some back and forth analysis on that as well. You can see into your late Friday night and early Saturday morning, a greater quantity of these up into Tennessee. But I'll be honest, I think underdone is the rain chance in our area. We're just now getting in that time frame when we can kind of look at some of these higher resolution projections. And at this point here, showing us hopefully in that sweet spot where there's more strong winds aloft up north, more fuel south, and maybe we land in between those two things. So that's the reason when we look at the severe threats and we look at our confidence related to this, we are low on that tornado threat. Not impressed by what we're seeing here. Now, I do think with the strong winds aloft, we will get a few rotating thunderstorms with this, but I think it's more likely that would produce some hailstones. And medium might be a little high on our thought process here, but I think some isolated large hail is possible out of those storms. If we're looking at the most likely thing based on what we're looking at now, I would say that's the greatest likelihood. Most wind gusts probably going to be 60 miles per hour or less, and maybe a lot less than that. So again, watching these threats here, not obviously with widespread activity. That's why that flash flood threat remains pretty limited as far as that is concerned. So Friday's high temperatures, we are warming things up. As you can see, all the way to 80 in Greenwood and Belzona in Greenville as that moisture kind of returning from the Gulf of Mexico. And so how much of that moisture gets in here? Is it enough to produce the severe thunderstorms? Obviously the bazillion-dollar question. And at this point, we don't have enough information for that. But the thinking is that initial front hopefully limits some of that moisture return. And so that would then make this still kind of a humid sort of day, but obviously not summertime sort of humidity with that. So for the few folks still doing our Friday night football, of course, our high school game of the week with Casey Law is on Thursday. By Friday, this is the reason a lot of those games have been moved to Thursday, because we're going to have quite a few shower chances around. Now listen, it's not going to be everybody, but I think confidence increases as we go into the evening and maybe overnight hours and some of those thunderstorms developing in our area. I think the initial wave, probably a little south or north, and then we fill in, if we fill in, as we progress into the evening. So unfortunately, that could time out for some of those games there. Now, as far as our SEC football forecast for the weekend is concerned, we're in great shape here. As you can see, Starkville, we're looking at Mississippi State taking on Georgia. Kick for that game, 11 a.m. And appreciate the good folks at Carl Hogan Toyota for sponsoring our SEC football forecast all season long. Mid-70s for first play. We're likely going to be around the 80-degree point as we progress toward the end of that one. And again, in the stands, always adding about 10 degrees, so it'd probably be mid-80s to 90s, especially if you're on those eastern stands where you get in the sunshine. That for those afternoon games could be a little bit rough there still for that. But of course, we're not to the summertime when it's really rough. The Citadel, of course, in Oxford, that kickoff there for Ole Miss at noontime. We're looking at 76 for the first play. By halftime, upper 70s, probably going to have some lower to maybe mid 80s there in the stadium. Not a ton of wind. We are going to watch a front that comes in behind this initial wave here. I think it arrives late enough in the day that those winds probably kick up just a little bit after the conclusion of that one. But don't be shocked if they do, if that speeds up at all, if that causes a couple issues there. And then for the Alabama forecast, we're looking at kickoff temperature at around 69. Limited rain chances there in Tuscaloosa. Again, related to this wave that's bringing us our rain chances on Friday for a lot of spots. 67 to look toward halftime of that one there, and 65 by the conclusion of that game. Honestly, expect most locations to probably be dry, and that 10% probably overdone as far as that is concerned. So with that in mind, as we look at that 7-day forecast, one of the big headlines, I think, again, going forward, obviously Friday, rain and storm chances. Let's be clear here. 30% coverage on the kind of the widespread scale there is pretty limited as far as a severe weather threat goes. What has changed from last night? Not a lot. We have confidence issues with this forecast simply because the moisture and the winds aloft are just a little bit out of phase. We're 76 though, and again, best chances in the afternoon, really more evening on your Friday to possibly even Friday night there in some spots, and then early Saturday. 76 for Saturday, but look at that, 59 degrees as we look towards Sunday, 49 for Monday of next week. I'm going to bring Gabe back on camera here for a second. I send it over to you. Looking at that extended forecast, I mean, that's another legit freeze for next week.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking frost advisories start of this week. Next week, we could be talking freeze warnings for a lot of locations because 31 degrees by Monday, definitely trending a little bit more down than where things have been, and 28 degrees by Tuesday morning. I mean, layers upon layers upon layers. It'll definitely be a cold one for the start of our work week next week. I don't know what it is, but I guess it's just the curse of the Mondays. Can't escape the cold weather, but if you're like me and you have a vegetable garden, that site, not exactly welcome because my tomatoes are not fully grown yet. I'm scared.
But you know that, well, you're on bonus time if you're still growing tomatoes.
1,000,000%, but I have been enjoying it. I told Annalise this week, I said, hey, if they don't grow by Friday of this week or Saturday, then we're not going to have tomatoes. And we've learned our lesson, and we're going to apply it to 2026.
So you can do green tomatoes? Can you move them inside? Can you?
Okay, so we actually looked into all of that. If we can actually, like, if it's an annual, and I believe peppers are annuals, so we can leave those out there, and just kind of they'll freeze, but they won't fully die. They go into their dormant state. Same thing with asparagus. I don't know why we planted asparagus, but we have asparagus plants, and in 3 years we can actually eat the asparagus. Don't get asparagus plants, actually. If anyone is considering it, learn from us. But the tomato plants, they will die. And so we're going to, of course, get what we can, and that's that.
Yeah, get what you can as soon as you can. Speaking of something to get, before we get out of here, do want to remind media again. We know that a lot of folks do that, and we appreciate that, but I'm going to kick this over here to the QR codes for the app to let you, the easiest way to kind of find our live stream is in the Mississippi Live app. And again, as you can see popping on there, I appreciate the good folks at Room to Room for sponsoring us here on Mississippi Live Weather. But the iOS and Android apps free and available for all those different devices. There's a lot of programming behind the scenes keeps pulling that down, so I'm going to leave it up here for just a moment. Again, free and available for all those devices. As I kind of walk off screen here for a moment, download the app, make sure you have it, and it will give you alerts if you're in that danger zone and need to definitely be paying attention. It will help you with that as well. So is free, and we always think layers. One of the things that we kind of say is layers save lives. So the more layers we have, more apps and things, you'll certainly know what's going to happen. But this and Weather Call, certainly what I would consider the gold standards here. I'm going to send this over to Gabe here for a second. And Gabe, of course, as we're looking into this, one of the things that, obviously folks are looking ahead toward is that Friday night football. And I keep saying Friday. It's Thursday. Thursday. I promise I'm going to be there tomorrow. I just got to get my brain in gear for that.
I'll send you a reminder just to make sure.
Oh, gosh.
Well, votes right now, pretty competitive. We have uploaded those, so if you have not submitted your vote, go ahead and like the respective picture, whether it's Oxford or Starkville, the Little Egg Bowl. So if you don't care for either of those high schools, you can still vote based off your Ole Miss or Mississippi State biases. But as you can see right here, this is for the Oxford High School band, 172 likes so far. And if we jump that over to the Starkville band, we have 280. So currently a 100 vote swing on that right now. But as we go over there towards the cheer, and bear with me while I pull it up here behind the scenes, you can see that we have 245 for the Oxford Chargers cheerleaders. And then if we take that over to Starkville, they were winning earlier, and they continue to almost dominate this vote. 493 so far, but I say dominate lightly because that's dominating right now. Heading into that extended next couple of days, things can definitely change, and we expect Oxford Chargers to make a little bit of a comeback, but that requires your votes. Last week we had a tie amongst the cheerleaders, so anything can happen whenever it comes to these votes. But go ahead and head to Matt Laupon's Facebook page. He'll have the latest on that. And go ahead and like the picture of your respective choosing. Instagram, same thing as well. Matt Laupon on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, of course, to encourage you to do is, of course, we mentioned download the app, free and available for all those devices. Just make sure you're all kind of logged in and ready to go for that. And tune into our next broadcast here, coming up at 6 o'clock. What we're looking at 6 o'clock, we can go kind of in-depth, kind of granular on some of the lower resolution models, the less pretty stuff as we dig into this severe weather threat. We'll be focusing on the timing of that development in the afternoon, some other projections, what we're looking at there. We'll have that come up here from the Room to Room Weather Center at 6 p.m. And then in the very latest, look at all our high resolution stuff at 10 p.m. tonight. If you happen to miss 6, we will see you at both of those time periods. Like and subscribe, and thanks for trusting us here on Mississippi Live Weather.
One in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.